I'm going to cover two topics. Both of them are my favorite topics. One is mobile, and the second is monetization, which is basically making money, and that's something everybody loves. Why is this called Quit Your Day Job? It basically talks about how you can make loads of cash and valuable content for the users. I'm sure if you guys have been here yesterday and today, you would have heard about how mobile is going to be the next big thing. So I'm going to give you a lot of numbers. I'm sure you've seen a lot of numbers till date. I'm just going to add to that mobile-centric and monetization-centric. So if you create apps or if you have a website, you should go ahead and create apps for yourselves because you can monetize those, show ads, and make money. So let me just get started. And all you Twitter-friendly people, please be nice. Let me warn you beforehand. So let's get started. Building a mobile business. First, let me introduce myself. If you weren't here yesterday, you don't know who I am. So I'm Harguneet. I work with the online partnerships group, which basically works with monetization, which is primarily AdSense, AdMob, DoubleClick for publishers, Ad Exchange, a lot of these monetization products. So, okay, let's go. Mobile internet to cross 100 million users in 2012. If you look at the chart, I'm actually going to make 2 points. The second one contradicts the first one. So first I'm going to say smartphones, which are basically your high-end devices, your iPhones, Android phones, are growing. Yes, they are growing. If you look at the chart, you will also see in the middle part is nothing but your WAP phones. WAP phones are growing as well. Everybody keeps talking about mobile phones growing, high-end phones growing. People keep forgetting about WAP phones. WAP phones are also growing. So mobile overall is definitely growing. So if you look at the numbers here, you will see in 2011 alone, we had 12 million users, that's 10% of the internet users in India, who used the internet only on mobile phones. I'm sure a lot of you here use the internet on your phones, on your desktop, on tablets, on all sorts of devices. But India is the next market where we have loads of people who are going to be coming online for the first time, and they're all going to be on mobile phones. If you look at point number, the gap between point 1 and point 2, you will notice the average CAGR. CAGR is nothing but the compounded annual growth rate. For the mobile phones in the next 5 years is going to be 56%, which is huge. So mobile is definitely a major factor that is going to happen within the next 2 to 3 years. So definitely keep that in mind. If you look at the diagram that we have on the right, it talks about the demographics. If you've spent some time on the internet in India, this is a pretty constant phenomenon even in the US. Majority of the users in India or globally on the internet are men. Even if you look around the audience today, the number varies from 60 to 40, the ratio is 60 to 40 and or 70 to 30. Even if you look around, you will see it's pretty much the same ratio that you have here as well. The internet is a very male-dominated place, and you can see the same here. This includes school children, college children who do have spending capacity, So from an advertiser point of view, it does make sense. Times are changing. It's not like how it used to be before where school, college children don't have spending capacity. I'm sure a lot of school, college children today have blogs. They monetize it. They make money off of it. So the world is changing. So mobile is definitely the next thing. Mobile internet backbone, smartphones, yes. So this is why I said I'm going to contradict myself. Even though I said WAP phones are also growing, but if you look at this statistic, so this current deck is going to be filled with numbers. So if you love numbers, you're going to have a ball. If not, you can definitely fall asleep for a bit. If you look at this, mobile is definitely growing with smartphones, yes. If you look at video consumption in the last year has grown 43%. And 43% on your series, the 6 series phones, that's basically your Nokia phones, your BlackBerry phones. It's grown by 26% on Android and iPhones, other phones around 30%. So mobile is growing, and not just standard content, not just your standard websites. Video is growing. YouTube has grown insanely in the last 1.5 to 2 years. Video content is growing, user base is growing. If you look at these numbers, it is huge. Data usage from high-end phones has grown 18 times. And this is only in the last year. And considering the kind of mobile phones that we're getting into the market now, so your sub 7,000 category, mobile phones less than 7,000 rupees category, which pretty much does every functionality that your Android phones at 30 or 40,000 do, and or your iPhones do at the same cost or maybe even higher. Micromax has been a game changer. They have, in fact, in India, we have tied up with them on a lot of search initiatives as well because we've seen that market grow. Activities with smartphone. I'm sure a lot of you check your emails regularly. No surprise, because people browse the internet, check your emails, listen to music. Obviously, it's like these are very standard numbers. Next slide. Mobile. Mobile is where content is growing, yes. If you look at the diagram on the right, you will see desktop search queries versus mobile search queries. Desktop is growing, yes, but desktop is also reaching a saturation level, which we all know. But with mobile, if you look at that chart, mobile queries are almost on par with search queries. So if you have a standard website and it's doing well, whether you're monetizing it, whether you have traffic, whether you have AdSense on it, you have different networks on it, or you have a direct sales team, no matter what, mobile is definitely the next place in terms of catching your audience, in terms of advertising, in terms of monetization, in terms of making money, in terms of pretty much everything. Mobile is the next big bet. If you look at top searches through mobile, I'm sure nobody's going to be surprised with the first point. First point is entertainment. We all know Google has something called the Google Guide, where we share highest searched queries every year. And Katrina Kaif has been leading the pack for the last 2-3 years, I think. So entertainment is definitely growing. Cricket, obviously, cricket, news, media, news and auto. In fact, yesterday, if you were here, you would have noticed in one of the presentations, one of my colleagues had mentioned that in India, we had done a study where more than about 50% of the users actually change their mind once they do research online when they're looking to buy a car. So this was a study that we had published, I think, earlier this year. And that was a staggering number, 50% of users. Like, if we have 1,000 people here, and if all 1,000 of you are looking to buy a car, half of you will change your mind. Like, if you start with probably you want to buy a Ford, whatever car, after doing research online, and a lot of this actually came from mobile. 50% people changed their mind. A lot of them actually used research on mobile phones. Research primarily done on mobile devices. So whether you own content, whether you create content, whether you're into the advertising medium online, mobile is definitely the place to be. Colaveridi. This was super famous. This video hit like 50 million views and all of that. I'm sure everybody here has heard it. I'm sure a lot of you don't even know Tamil, but I'm sure you've all heard the song. You've heard different versions of it, different remixes of it, made by official channels, made by official partners, made by random people as well. 50 million views of Colaveridi, out of which 30% came from mobile phones. So the whole fact that people don't use mobile phones to consume content is wrong. People do use it. People use even video on mobile phones. If you notice, in the last less than 1 year, most mobile service providers have cut rates of their 3G and 2G by approximately 30%. So in that way, it's only going to grow. So those numbers are definitely going to go. Traffic is going to grow. Advertising revenue will grow. If advertising revenue grows, monetization will grow. 56% use smartphones for price comparison on products information. So here on the left, we have something called mobile. We have something called major MCOM. MCOM is nothing but mobile commerce. So if you'll notice in India, the largest things are tickets, whether it's movie tickets, whether it's a Make My Trip, whether it's a Book My Show, flight tickets, entertainment, all of these obviously rule on the mobile platform. On the right, you can see number of mobile searches and percentage of growth in 2011. Everything is growing. It's all, the lowest growth number in that I can see from here is 81%. So you can imagine the kind of growth expected. The base might be small, but the first user advantage or the main player advantage is something that all of you should definitely look to be local. This was something I had mentioned yesterday as well in one of my other presentations. In India, the next 200 million users on the internet are expected to be from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And a majority of these people are going to be people who don't speak English. They will not do chatter-patter like how we do in English, but that does not mean that they do not understand content. So content does not have to be only in one language. So you have people who are going to read content in English, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Punjabi, Gujarati, Marathi, in all sorts of languages. If you look at the 3 logos that we have there, the first one is Mumbai. These are local apps, not just local in the terms of language, but also in terms of content. If you look at the first one, Mumbai, it's the local train. It's the local train guide. It tells you what time the trains arrive and stuff like that. The second one is obviously JD. JD is Just Dial. Just Dial, this app went from 0 to I think 100 and something plus K installs in less than a day. And Just Dial is super famous. It's search. It is one of our competitors, yes, but it's brilliant. And local. So this is the whole point of having local. If you look at the third logo, if any of you have ever been to Delhi or the NCR, you will recognize that that is the Metro ka logo. And what this actually does is, it's a simple thing, it's a very simple tool. You can go and feed your from and to destinations. It will give you the route, which metro you should be catching, which line you have to go, if you have to jump lines, if you have to change your trains, what is the approximate fare that you will have to pay. So local apps give you that kind of information. If you look at the graph that you see on the bottom left, this is another interesting graph. It has names, vernacular names, Hindi language sites and Rajasthani sites like Rajasthan Patrika, Amar Ujala, Punjabi newspapers. So 43% searches have increased. 43% vernacular news growth we have seen for these kind of sites. So vernacular, which is basically non-English language sites in India, are growing and are definitely going to grow. So if you're looking to invest in content, mobile is the great place, local is great. I'm sure all of us keep thinking about just global, In India is one of the very few markets where if you pull out your own mobile phones, smartphones, and if you look at the kind of apps that you use, majority of them will be international apps. We as Indians consume more global content than Indian content. But this will definitely change. Within the next 2 to 3 years, these numbers are just going to be, are going to be staggering. So content, whether it's English or in vernacular languages, is only going to grow. 82% of smartphone users have noticed online advertising, which is true. Because if you're on a Google.com, you will definitely see mobile ads. You will see ads in apps. You'll see ads on video websites, all of it. So these are really simple stuff. I'll just go to the next one. Mobile monetization potential looks promising. Yes, mobile ad spending in India in $1 million. So this is where we are right now. So 2012, if you look at 2014, 2015, we are going to grow. So that is the kind of ad revenue you as publishers, basically if you own mobile apps, that is the kind of potential that you have to make money. So that is the chunk that you can actually monetize in the next 2 years. So a lot of you could just be the next big entrepreneur. You could be the next millionaire from India itself. So, okay. So 25 billion by 2014. Mobile application revenue expected to hit 25 billion US dollars. And these are all Indian numbers. This was a research done by Juniper Networks. 25 billion by 2014. That's a huge number. And the reason why I'm stressing on this again and again is because if you guys are publishers and you have your own apps that you can monetize, this is a chunk that you can eat into readily. Ideation. We all talk about mobile apps. I'm sure let's say if there are 1,000 people in the room, if we ask anybody and everybody here to give app ideas, I'm sure all of you will have ideas. But the thing with ideas is, everybody thinks their idea is unique. Everybody thinks that they are the only ones with that idea, but which is not true. I'm sure if you ask people here, if you look at this example here, the first one is an idea. The second is maybe if I have an idea of creating an ice hockey app. And the third is I actually go ahead and create the app. But you may not be the only person who actually has an ice hockey app. I'm sure if you go to the Google Play Store or the iOS Store, you will see people with loads of similar apps, pretty much the same functionality, but there will be only one that leads the pack, even in one particular game. So what do we do in this case? Multiple people can have the same idea, execution comes into the picture. Strategies for success. Let's look at, this is one studio called Backflip Studios. They produce mobile apps. So if you're ever played any games, like Paper Toss is one of the most famous games. I'm sure a lot of you have played it here. So they're a very casual game developer. The first app launched in 2009. Their biggest success to date is Paper Toss, like I mentioned. 47.5 million downloads on their iOS devices. Today they earn about 500,000 USD per month with Google AdMob. So that is one of the main reasons why I'm here on stage talking to you about applications. So these are numbers, these are externally shareable numbers. They've been working with us, that is Google AdMob, since 2009. So mobile content is unique. All of us look at mobile content on standard websites, but the same experience does not necessarily hold true on mobile phones. Mobile content is different. People have different user behaviors on mobile websites and on mobile apps. I'm sure if you look at, if you use maybe a PVR mobile site, if you have a PVR app and you have the PVR mobile site, the way you will actually look at movies versus looking at theaters is actually different. So app usage is different, behavior is different. So that is why you should also focus on creating separate or equivalent mobile websites and mobile apps. Just think how your users would be, how they would be using your app or your website. Think about your audience. This is what I was leading to. For any advertising platform, any advertising strategy or publisher strategy, monetization strategy primarily, you have to think about your audience. Especially with mobile in a country like India, the audience is very varied because you have people who are using the internet for the first time, you have people who have high spending capacity, you have people who have mixed spending capacities, you have a very mixed ratio of men to women. That number can be really mixed. Mobile is unique. You need devices because, and also the other thing to remember is that not all devices are built equally. I know it sounds very rude, but you have to keep in mind that functionalities that you might have on an iOS or an Android phone do not have to be the same on your standard Nokia Symbian version. So you have to incorporate structural limitations, you have to incorporate and work around whatever you actually work with. If you look at the chart on the left, this is basically talks about the number of SMSs, text messages sent by adults versus the number of text messages sent by people in their teens. These are US numbers. An average US adult sends up to 10 SMSs per day. For the average teen, it's definitely much more. It goes into the 100 per day range. The reason, if you look at the second slide, so do your research. It's very, very important. Like I mentioned, people don't have to behave the exact same. The most interesting statistic on the right, if you notice the second one that is rounded up there, you will see that men behave differently on mobile phones versus on websites. You will see, I can't read the number from here, but it's actually a staggeringly high number. Men actually use their mobile phones to read more news on the phone while on desktops or on laptops. This is something, if you look, I'm sure you would have all noticed. Even this is something after I saw the slide, even I realized, yes, I do have my NDTV apps, I do have my Times of India apps, mobile website, all of it. So you have to do your research. You have to know where your audience is coming from, who your audience is. Import dollars from US. So even yesterday I had mentioned something about with monetization, you have to know where your audience is coming from, where your traffic is coming from. We know how the Indian market is something which is just starting off. When compared to the US market. US market, the CPCs, CPMs that you can receive are definitely much higher. So if you look at this, 2015 is going to be a much bigger chunk. Projected growth rate is about 35 to 45% for 2012. So these are huge opportunities. This basically means more and more revenue for all of you sitting here to tap into. If you're a mobile app developer, this is the kind of money you're just waiting to get. So because you're going to add value to users, you're going to add value to advertisers because you're going to give them more eyeballs. You're going to help them better targeting and all that stuff. So it's all about money. Next here. So this comes back to research. If you look at this here, I'm sure all of you will think, okay, if I ask you what are the main categories that do well on the iOS App Store, games. I'm sure all of us will say yes, games. So this is a segmentation between free apps and paid apps. So this is why research has to be important, is because if you look at point 2, 3, and 4 on the left, you will see tools. The category of tools does really well on the free apps. Tools, entertainment, communication. These do really well in the free section, but if you look at the paid section, tools, entertainment are like in the middle of the section or at the lower bottom. So this is where your research actually helps. You have to know things like where your audience is coming from, what kind of apps they like to use, how much they like to pay for it, whether they like to pay for it or not in the first place, and things like that. This is again a similar thing, but for Android. Games are obviously popular pretty much across. Understand app dynamics. This is very, very important. How many of you use apps on your phones here? Just a show of hands. How did you find the app? Exactly. So that is what this slide talks about. When we look at softwares, when we look at programs, when we look at websites, you have engines out there, you have recommendation engines, you have friends that tell you what it is, which one is good, and all sorts of things. But with applications, it's actually something very intriguing, because only when we look at stores, like the Play Store for Google Play Store or the iOS Store, only those are the main places that's the main source of applications that all of us have today. And not all of these stores showcase each and every product. They showcase maybe like 40 or 50 top products, and that changes on a monthly basis or weekly basis depending on whatever the apps are. So ranking is critical. Over 500,000 apps in the App Store. So how do you make your app stand out? Now, like I said, out of the 1,000 people here, 500 of them might have pretty much the same idea. Like if all of you are going to execute and create one mobile app, travel in India does well. If tomorrow all of you go and create a travel app, how do you differentiate each other? What is the value add that you have for a user? So that is the kind of research you have to do. You have to know why. Today, if I create a mobile app which is primarily in Hindi and it talks about buying tickets, that sets me apart from my competitors out there. Even though we might have hundreds of thousands of people doing pretty much the same thing in English, doing the same thing in a different language is also a good idea, depending on this thing we have, the demand. Dash is the percentage of people discover apps on the store. This is 40-something percent. It's about 43%. So imagine, 43% of people actually discover apps only on stores, whether it's the Play Store or it's the iStore. So how do you get to the top of these stores? And how do you set yourself apart? That is what you should be asking yourself. Marketing. I'm sure I'm a big fan of social media, and games and apps do really well on social media. 37% of smartphone owners discover apps through social. So if you're an app developer, no matter whether you're a single person or if you're a multi-person company, whether you make $1 a month or you make $1 million a month, you have to incorporate social in your plan. It could be social for your company, it could be social for a particular app, it could be social across apps, whatever, depends on where your audiences are. Continue to delight users. This is something that, especially for apps, is very, very true. Content, like if I have a game, I create a game, it does well, it's on the top of the Play Store, people are downloading it, but how do I continue it? It should not just be a one-time thing. So that's why we have something called rewards. So in games, you would have noticed things like, I think when Farmville was really, really famous on Facebook, what they did was they started giving out rewards. Basically, not giving out, you could buy rewards. You could buy the cow that gave you strawberry milk or chocolate milk or something of that sort, and it actually did well. Even I was shocked when I heard that they actually made money from that. So rewards, it does not have to mean that they pay you or you pay them, whatever. It can be any rewarding mechanism, like Foursquare. Foursquare has a brilliant rewarding mechanism where people just go and check in and try to become mayors. In India, they don't even offer that many offers as such. Whereas in the US, Foursquare gives you offers, so you get deals, so people have a reason to go and actually check in and show, where they are. So these kind of rewarding mechanisms and updates. If you make games or if you make any apps, remember that you don't have to just make one stationary app and let it go. Ensure that you update it, tweak it, make it faster, make it better, add more content. This is a brilliant example. Blackflip Studio, again, paper toss. So the big image on the left, that was how their game looked when they started off. And later they added multiple levels, and they added different themes, different skill sets, how the thing looks. So they also have a rewarding system where you could buy points and change certain aspects of the game and the speed of the fan and all that. So updates, rewards, this is an example of that. Many paths lead to success. Especially with mobile, there is no one guaranteed solution. Like on one side, I keep mentioning, you can go ahead, create multiple small apps. That's one way of doing it, but if you look at the other side, here you have Angry Birds. That is probably the largest game that company has ever made. It went public. They've done really well and stuff. So there are different mechanisms of doing things. You have to figure out which one works well for you, works well for your target audience. Okay, I've built an app. How do I make money? I'm sure a lot of you have this question. So this is where Google comes in. Google acquired a product called AdMob, which is now called Google AdMob, which basically lets you monetize mobile applications. This is something that I feel that a lot of app developers in India really miss out on. So this is how you can actually make money. One is paid downloads. You have a game, you can just create a paid version of it. Like say, I create a game called Angry Indians, and then I make a paid version of it. Basically, you pay me 50 rupees, and then you can download the paid version. That's one. Then the second thing is freemium. Users pay for additional functionality. If you remember, there was the game that came out called Angry Anna. It was based on Angry Birds, and they incorporated Anna Hazare into it. So you can be slightly creative on that front. And freemium, coming back to freemium is, you can have games like you can give out specific reward points, or people can actually come and buy points to get additional features. Like if you have a role-playing game, RPG action game, people actually pay money to get coins to build houses and take their armies forward and stuff like that. People actually do that. Keep in mind, if you're building an app, like I said, your audience. If you're going to look primarily at an Indian audience, something of this sense might not make too much sense right now, but that's the way the market is headed. But if you're going to be working with a majority of US-facing traffic or US-facing people, this definitely works. This is something a lot of game sites a lot of apps have actually done very successfully. Next, we have in-app purchases. These is actually very similar to freemium. You can actually go ahead and buy stuff on the app. This could be things like if I'm a, if I have like a Flipkart site, if I have a Flipkart app or something like Flipkart, but I can actually enable people to go and buy stuff on it. Like there's this one app which is really famous in the US. It talks about fashion. They actually don't sell anything, but they have in-app purchases where basically if you like the kind of content, you can actually go ahead and buy. They'll route you through to the required store, and you can actually go ahead and buy the clothes that they are selling or whatever fashion accessories or merchandise that they're selling. So it's not just one thing. So normally people, when they think about apps, they think, okay, either I have a free product or I have a paid product. Maximum on the free one, I'll show ads and make some money. You can definitely do that, but there are other ways as well. And then next, but definitely not the least, is advertising. Either you can make use of AdMob. There are other players in India as well, like Imobi, or if you have your own direct ad network or direct partnerships, you can definitely use those as well. Earn money with mobile advertising. It's simple. Sign up with Google AdMob. You have an app. Click on the app. The moment it launches, we can show an ad on the top and or below, depending on some specifications. And every time someone, either if it works on a CPC level, which is basically whenever someone clicks on it, or CPM is for every 1,000 impressions, you actually get paid out. So if you own an app and it gets sizable amount of traffic, this is definitely something you should explore. And this is only growing in India. So yeah, this is pretty much it. You can show ads, 10 cent CPC, 120 ad requests. So this actually goes to the formulas here. So I'm sure if you ever, if you're a publisher or an advertiser, you will know all these things. Click-through rate is primarily clicks by impressions. It's a percentage number. That's the rate at which someone has actually clicked onto your ad. Revenue is clicks into CPC. These are very simple metrics. eCPM is revenue by impressions into 1,000. This is the expected cost per 1,000 impressions that you get. Fill rate is basically impression by ad request. Like if I need 120,000 ads to be shown, but my ad provider, my ad network is showing only ads maybe 100,000 times, so I'm still missing out on 20,000 impressions. So this is where fill rate will make a difference. Like here, if you look at it, it's 83%. Network A versus network B. If any of you have ever monetized online, you will know for a fact that there are multiple networks, whether it's on desktop or it's on mobile applications. So this is a new feature that Google has launched on AdMob. It's called mediation. What this does is, if you want to use multiple ad networks, and this is the kind of eCPM that you receive, it fluctuates. If you've ever made money online, you know for a fact that CPCs and eCPMs can fluctuate. A lot of seasonal activity happens. What we can do with this is, if you have multiple networks, we can use this feature called mediation to try and stabilize your eCPMs. Basically, if you don't make money from one network, you can try and compensate from the other. So it balances out, tries to balance out what you're making. So this is where optimal eCPM comes into the picture. Mediation. So what this basically does is, if you have multiple ad networks, it could be a AdMob, it could be a Imobi, it could be a Comely or whatever. If you're using any of these networks, you can actually do mediation, which is basically all of these will compete at that particular instance to show an ad, which basically means whoever's willing to pay you the highest for that point in time, for that impression, will show up. It doesn't matter if it's Imobi or if it's Comely or if it's AdMob. Whoever for that instance, for that impression is paying you more, will win, and you can show that. App user engagement over time. So we all know something called product life cycle. If you've ever been into advertising or if you've done business, you know things always pick up the peak, and then there's always a plateau, and then maybe it goes down. But with apps, this is the kind of PLC that we see. It goes up, and then it could just stagnate or start falling. When you have two apps, the blue one is app 1, app A, and app B is in green. So if you have two apps, you'll see when app 1 starts descending, when the traffic on that or the users on that are actually declining, a lot of people actually tend to promote their app. The point here I'm getting to is this: build your audience faster. So leveraging your audience with house ads. So this is very important. So if you have two apps and one has actually grown and you know it's going to slow down, and that's when you should try to push your next app. So what this does is, it encourages people. So basically, like how I was talking about ads, you can use different ad networks to make money. you can actually use house ads. So basically, if I have two apps, I have one app called Saregamapa and the other one is Do Re Mi Fa So. The moment I know the first app is actually peaking and it's going to saturate and it's going to start, it's going to dip. What I can do is I can start running my own house ads, which is basically ads for my second app. So that what happens is you have users engagement on app 1, and if they are looking for a change, they will also go to app 2. It's a very simple, very common strategy, but a lot of people actually don't think of it. So it's very simple. So it's house ads. So it's basically cross marketing of your own apps, and you don't have to pay anybody because you're showing your own ad on your own property. So in that way, it's win-win for you. Like this. Game 1 has ad for game 2. It's owned by the same company. So this is the kind of house ads or cross-platform that I was talking about. Business model building blocks. This looks like a very complicated slide, but if you look at the legend at the bottom, you'll see red is free, blue is in-app purchases, yellow is paid, and green is advertising. So what this basically means is there is no one particular strategy that works for one particular app. If you build 5 apps, maybe all 5 of your apps have the same strategy, but it is possible that all of them have individual strategies. It is also possible that you start off with one strategy and you end up with with another strategy. Like if you look at the first one, in that case, the developer here has started off with a free app, and then from red he moves to blue, which is basically in-app purchase. So he probably here would have tied up with different retailers or whoever wants to advertise on his site, or who want to indirectly sell things to his audience. So that works. The second thing is red to yellow, which is basically free to paid. So maybe if you have an app, if there is a version of it that you also sell. Now, why do you sell it? I mean, it either it has more features, or it gives you better things to do, or it gives you more controls. It could be anything. The next one is basically red to green, which is free to advertising, which is what we were talking about here. With AdMob, you can probably start out with a free app without advertising. You're not making anything. You're just building your user base. You're just collecting information. You're trying to understand what kind of apps people actually like. And then once you start getting like the product lifecycle that I mentioned, once it starts picking up, you can look at monetizing with ads and stuff like that. So 3, 4, it goes. I'll just have a look at the last one. The last one starts with red, which is free. So the app has started free, and then they move to an in-app purchase. That is where I was talking about, where people can buy stuff. And then from there, they have moved to a paid product. So in this case, the app started as a free one. Then the app developer started selling things indirectly via his app. Then he made it a paid app, and the green one is advertising. So how this is different is a lot of developers on primarily their free apps is where they prefer showing ads, and not on their paid apps, because they think that it's better user behavior or better user. If someone's actually paid you money, you don't want to show ads to them. But again, like I said, it's a very individualistic basis, and it could be different. I mean, each app can work differently. Best practice for advertising on mobile apps: don't bury your ads. If you're showing ads, be proud. They do not interfere with people's how do I put it? With people's usage of your app. It only adds value to it because it can be contextually targeted. They're probably seeing ads for something that they were already looking for in the first place, or they're interested in the first place. Use natural breaks for ads, test and iterate. Very simple points. It's easy to measure downloads. So this is a big problem that I have with most app developers. They seem to be major techies, and all they can think about is the number of downloads. With apps, I would suggest, yes, look at number of downloads, but also look at different metrics. Track performance, not downloads. Information is wealth. So any information that you get about your user audience, it could be the demographics, it could be the age, it could be the city from which your users are coming from, it could be the amount of time spent. A lot of advertisers will actually pay a lot of money for properties where time spent is high. The reason why, if you look at Facebook keeps talking about revenue, it's fine. Their revenues are not that big, but time spent on Facebook is huge. That is the reason why advertisers will definitely look at that as an option. It's the same case for Google's own product, YouTube. Time spent is a very, very, very big factor. So that is why I always I suggest all the app developers here, don't just look at downloads. Downloads is only one factor. Look at all the other metrics that you get. How can you get that? You can use Google Analytics. It tells you where your audience comes from, where they're actually leaving the app. Maybe, if you're, So if we're talking about advertising, it's possible that a lot of your users are leaving the app the moment they see an ad. So in that case, you know, okay, my users don't like ads, so I can probably take the ads out. It will give you information like where they're coming from, where they're going, especially if you use the in-app purchases, you know if they like the products, if maybe one particular section is driving more traffic than others. Like say if I sell shoes and jewelry on my app indirectly through in-app purchases, and if I see for a fact that the jewelry section is doing much better than my shoes section, you can decide on whether you want to even keep the shoe section if it's worth the trouble. So all this kind of information, any metric that you get is brilliant. So don't just look at downloads. Getting started with Google Analytics, you can visit code.google.com/mobile/analytics. If you want to take it down, I can keep it for a second, or just go to google.com/analytics. You can link up your accounts. It's a free product. Again, Google Analytics is free. Or you can just go to Google and search for Google Analytics. You'll get it. Tracking app engagement, e-commerce tracking. This is very simple. With analytics, you know it's a funnel. You know where they're coming from, where they're going, which part of your site people like. If you're an e-commerce app, like if you have Flipkart, like Flipkart's app, you can get information like which page people are coming to, and if they close the page, on which particular section are they closing it. Maybe people are closing it more when they see the price of the item, or they're not happy with the kind of number of products that they're offering. So with that knowledge, you can either increase or decrease the product listing that you have. You can look at if you have a 3-step, if you have a 3-click or a 3-page system to close a deal. Like say if I'm going to buy something, I'm searching for the product, page 1. I'm looking at that particular product's description, page 2, and page 3 is where I'm actually buying it. If you notice that people are actually leaving at page 2, it could probably mean that direct them directly to your product listing. It could be that people are getting bored, and if I'm looking for one product and you're showing me 10, I don't want to look at 10 products. Maybe I just want to look at that one because I know what I want to buy. So in that way, all this information is even for e-commerce and for non-e-commerce applications is brilliant. Analytics can get you all that information. The whole point of this talk, one-way talk right as of now, was about Google and AdMob. So why this says Google and AdMob separately here is because for mobile content, if you have a mobile website, you can use standard Google AdSense to monetize that content. If you have a mobile application, that's pretty much what we were talking about. You can make use of Google's AdMob. You can just go on to Google, search for AdMob. You can go ahead, sign up if you don't have an account already. You can get the SDK ready-made there to start working on integration and all that. Mobile ads at the core of monetization. 59% of publishers believe that a combination of advertising and subscription-based revenue is the best strategy. Subscription-based is the paid product. So like I mentioned, I don't completely agree with this number. Like I said, because different apps and different verticals and different users will have different liking. So it's primarily a testing out model. You have to just go out there and test it into the market. Becoming a featured app on Android, I'm sure a lot of you will be thinking. Like I said, 43% of users find apps from app stores. Build a great app, showcase the functionality that you have, high ratings, organic traffic. App is seasonal. Like if I'm going to make an app for Diwali, it makes sense to release it during Diwali time. If I create a Diwali app in January and release it, it's kind of pointless. High quality apps. So this is something I want to take a second to stress on. Always, with Google and any of Google's products, remember content is king. So make sure, put yourself in your user's place and try to understand, like, why are they actually coming to this site or to your particular app? What are they looking for? Will they be happy with what you're currently showing them? Will they be happy with the kind of information that you're showcasing to them, whether it's a game or it's local listings of any sort? So information and content is king. So just keep looking into that. Make your app faster, make it better, make it steady, all of that. Unique platforms, across platforms, then you can have user comments and ratings to determine all that. So social also can help with this. Yes. Before you quit your day job, build a business, not an app. That's something that I would definitely stress on. Just creating an app is very simple with the kind of technology that we have online. You have a lot of these people that let you build apps ready-made. You just have to just tell them where you want to link, just mention link 1, link 2, you just have a static page. It will tell you how to create it and all of that. But what I would suggest is look at it as a tool, as a product. How does it benefit your audience? What do you get out of it? Do all the kind of research, look at every metric possible, because data is again huge. Experiment, don't be afraid to experiment. We Indians have a tendency to be very stable and not to experiment with things. But go out there, experiment, you have nothing to lose. Thank you.